All right, everybody, let's get going. Welcome to Richard Reacts. I'm Richard, and this is me reacting. We're going to be reacting to the Ordo Amoris. Everybody else has talked about it, so I might as well do that too. Although I did write something, and I have some notes. I wrote an article about it, and I'm going to reference that just so I stay on track, okay? But let's watch a little bit, just so we get from the horse's mouth exactly what is happening here. All right, sound good?
Your compassion belongs, and as an American leader, but also just as an American citizen, your compassion belongs first to your fellow citizens. It doesn't mean you hate people from outside of your own borders, but there's this old school, and I think it's a very Christian concept, by the way, that you love your family, and then
He's a Christian nationalist. It's funny, every Christian's a Christian nationalist to one degree or another. And even atheists and skeptics are also religious nationalists because they think they want pluralism, but they don't. I mean, just look at Germany or modern day England, United Kingdom. The Muslims are going to take you over because they're stronger and they have more passion for their religion than you do.
You love your neighbor, and then you love your community, and then you love your fellow citizens in your own country. And then after that, you can focus and prioritize the rest of the world. A lot of the far left has completely inverted that. They seem to hate the citizens of their own country and care more about people outside their own borders. That is no way to run a society. And I think the profound difference that Donald Trump brings to the leadership of this country is the simple concept, America first. It doesn't mean you hate anybody else. It means that you have leadership. And President Trump has been very clear about this, that puts the interests of American citizens first. In the same way that the British Prime Minister should care about Brits and the French should care about the French, we have an American president who cares primarily about Americans, and that's a very welcome change.
What is President Xi doing? What is Vladimir Putin
He's looking after the Chinese. Putin is looking after the Russians.
100%. 100%. This is the first time I've actually watched it. I've only heard inklings about it. He says Google it somewhere. So really the question is, have you Googled it? Did you Google it? Did you look? Because he does say Google it somewhere, but for the sake of brevity, we're not going to continue watching. But is this true? Is this a right thing? I mean, JD Vance is a Roman Catholic, right? Professes faith in Christ. As he just said, it's a Christian concept. It's funny, too, by the way, that so many on the right, or rather the left, and the right, but the left get a pass when they talk about Christianity, Jesus, going to church. Democrats always go to churches. Usually they're black churches, things like that. The church is all painted black, right? That's what I mean by black churches. And it's just like, the hypocrisy, the double standard is just ridiculous. Anyway, you love your neighbor, rather you love your family, then your neighbor, then your community, your fellow citizens, your own country, and then you focus and prioritize the rest of the world, he says. Now, this sounds completely normal, right? And 20 years ago, nobody would have even questioned this. And yet somehow today, in upside down clown world, it is questioned. It's a very similar concept to what others have discussed in various forms regarding government. First you have self-government, then family government, church government, city, state, federal, and so on and so forth. And yet, many times when you hear the word government, I bet even when I say government, you think federal government, right? Too many times modern people think this. We just automatically think federal government. Generally, this should be the last form of government we think of, not the first. But this is why many people, especially on the left, think government solutions to immigration, for example, is a good thing. Well, no. That's not. The government isn't the nanny state, and yet this is what many people, even conservatives and so-called Christians, often think. But is Ordo Amoris a pagan and naturalistic idea, as some people have said, some Christians have said? Or is this a Christian concept worthy of emulation? Well, a quick Google search, again, will inform you that it's just a simple order of loves. Ordo Amoris, if you don't know, is Latin. Ordo, of course, is order, and Amoris, love. Pretty straightforward. That's why you got to love different languages, especially Latin. You can see this concept is truly as old as time. And yet, in our modern upside-down world, tradition and common sense thinking and everything else have been swapped out for tolerant and vague nonsense, usually poisonous ideas about how humans should live. We see it. We've been breathing it for at least the last 4 years, but really the last 12. I would say since the part of Obama's term, the upside down nature of marriage with Obergefell in 2015, and just countless other things. Just free wars, handouts, open borders in the last 4 years. It's astounding. And the other, just as an aside, I love those videos. You see like a guy, man on the street's got a microphone, and oh, we're doing a petition, we're signing. Would you support illegal aliens, or would you support migrants? Blah blah blah. What do they name them? Talking to liberals, whether it's Toronto or New York City or Boston or wherever. Oh yeah, absolutely. Would you supporting, putting them in people's houses? Oh yeah, absolutely. And they're like, well, we actually have some. And they're like, well, I can't. I can't. I just watched one a couple weeks ago. It was a guy on UCLA's campus, University of California, LA, Los Angeles. And would you support, getting rid of this and that for school, for education, or giving your education rather to someone else? Yeah, yeah. I think that's a great idea. And it's like, well, can you do that then to an underprivileged migrant? Oh, no, I can't. I can't give my scholarship away. I can't give my class. I can't pay for their class and me not go to school. I need to be represented. I. It's just like your hypocrisy is 10 miles thick. But what does it mean, really? Back to our ordered loves. What does it mean? Everyone, even atheists and Christians of all stripes, can agree that humans love people, experiences, culture, etc. Right? Many people love food, animals, so on. There have been growing contingent, though, of people, especially on the left, politically and theologically, of what the average man or woman should do. We should somehow swap out our natural affections for those of our closest of kin and our family, friends, etc., for the stranger, quote unquote, and the sojourner, etc. Now, we see this in the Old Testament and the New Testament. We'll get there. And we're somehow supposed to love the anonymous guy under the bridge down the road that we pass every day on the way to work, or the faceless, impoverished women, or men, or families, or whatever, in some far-flung place. Now, again, we'll get there. Should we love those people? We'll see, according to Scripture. But Christians, do we have to choose between these? Right? Are these mutually exclusive? It is the order that it seems like people on the left, and I guess maybe even some on the right, have. The order. Do we love, and in what order? Well, Christians are called to love people, right? Enemies and friends. We see this in the Gospels. Turn the other cheek. You've heard it said, Jesus says, but I tell you, right? Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. But Christians are also called to love neighbor, which begs the question, who's the closest neighbor? Is it the people in New York City, me living in Ohio? No, it's people right next to me. It's people right next to you. If you live in Alabama or Florida or California, Kentucky, Texas, wherever. It's where you live. I'm not your closest neighbor if you live in Texas. The people around you are. Right? I mean, duh. It only makes sense. But then, even most specifically, our spouse, our husband, our wife, our children, the actual people literally next door, the family next door. Make sure that there's at least, you're loving them in some way. There's a problem. There's a fire. There's a this. There's a that. You're concerned about them. Hey, there's something going on with your car. Somebody's trying to break into your car. Your trash can got knocked over. Whatever. There's all sorts of things that we see, and we care for our neighbor there. Love the people both near and far. Yes, that can be true at the same time, but the order still matters. We don't love everyone equally all the time. That's evident. So a real world example. My wife is my wife, and I love her more than any other woman. If I don't, there's a massive problem. Even my own mother. And if you don't think so, if you think that's a problem, you've grossly and grievously misunderstood Genesis 2:24. Yeah, 2:24. Of course, I should love my wife more than any other woman, just like there should be no other man vying for her love and seeking to love her as much as I do. If that is happening and it's inverted in my marriage or in your marriage or anyone else's, Sin is at foot. It's crouching at the door. It will destroy you. Frankly, the Ordo Amoris is everything we do. It's in everything we do. Both the right and the left think this way. We don't mix or rearrange things for the sake of cultural brownie points. It's nonsense. I love Aquinas, 13th century theologian, loved by Roman Catholics, which is fine. You know, I think he's got some good stuff to say too. We don't need to avoid him as Protestants. He says the concept of Ordo Amoris is to love others, and this is stated above, as I already said. But we also look and see that he goes further. He cites Paul's letter, and we see that people are worthy of love, but I also would add that they're worthy of our love. It's a reciprocation. Human relationships bring responsibilities and requirements. He says, quote, one's obligation to love a person is proportionate to the gravity of sin one commits in acting against this love, end quote. To say it another way, we're to love with deeper devotion those for whom we have a bigger responsibility. We as people are limited to space and time, and everyone only has 24 hours in a day, right? From Elon Musk, Bill Gates, whoever, Jeff Bezos, Warren Buffett, all these guys only have 24 hours. How are some of these guys billionaires? Well, it's because they're corrupt and they cheat, right? They steal, they lie. No, it's because they use their 24 hours differently than, the person who's stuck on corn, drugs, sleeping around, sleeping till noon, not working, being lazy, whatever. Or digging ditches and building buildings, etc. Driving trash trucks and changing diapers. We all have 24 hours. Nobody has more time. So how can you love everyone equally? You can't. And that's really the inverted thing. It might not even be that the left wants people to love everyone equally, especially not them, but conservatives for some reason, people to the right of them, because, people always excuse left to them politically and theologically, but punch right so often, which is ridiculous and stupid. You should do it both ways. If you're going to punch, you should punch both ways or excuse both ways. But we all only have 24 hours. Again, this concept of Ordo Amoris either is these people are being dishonest, or they've never had a real family, one of the two, if they don't actually do this. I mean, Russell Moore, who's a classic leftist clown now, and has been that way for a long time, has revealed himself as such in recent years. He clearly doesn't do this with his own family, with his wife, and I think he has 4 children, something like that. Obviously. I mean, that doesn't even need to be proven. It's obvious. I don't know anyone who's loved by Russell Moore, whether they're a sojourner or a stranger and illegal or not. I don't know anyone, including my own family or friends or people I've worked with or at the seminary I went to where he used to teach, that is loved more by Russell Moore than Russell Moore's own family. So, does this have biblical standing? Well, Christians are to love others. Yes, I already said that. But this does not mean we love everyone equally all the time, as JD Vance points out again. Not only is this impossible, it runs counter to God's own narrative. God loved Noah and called his wife and sons and their wives into the ark when he judged the world. Abraham over against others to make him a great nation. He chose Israel to be the father of the 12 tribes, not Esau. God chose David, Elijah, Jonah, Daniel, and of course sent Christ into the world to save sinners, God in flesh, and Jesus chose the 12 disciples, and so on and so forth, to carry out a mission to do these things. Yes, even Judas. Yet, what? What do we do? Well, in all these interactions, God is working, making distinctions. These interactions had a purpose. God had a purpose. He made distinctions and ordered his love and our loves accordingly. Not everyone was loved equally. Now, if God did not want humans to love back to us with those closest to us, then why have family? Why have a husband or a wife? Why have parents? Why have children? Why give humanity marriage at all? It'd be better if we would just be asexual robots bouncing around, giving him glory. I mean, have these people not read? That's the question. Well, this is not to say, again, that Christians do not love, right? Hear me closely. This is not to say that we don't love the sojourner. We don't support, World Vision or Samaritan's Purse. We don't not support these other things. But what about Hurricane Helene and the victims there? Or what about the victims of California fires? We should support those more than we should support those far away, right? I mean, it's the whole thing with even the example of an airplane, right? They say the airplane's going down, losing cabin pressure, and they tell you, put your mask on first so you can help other people, right? Take care of yourself first. This goes back to the self-government comment that I said earlier, and even the self-love, which is ironic because the left is all about self-love, which just means like self-lust, self-pleasure, generally, putting yourself first, selfish. But Paul talks to us about this, right? To whoever hated his flesh, he tells, no. But we nurture and cherish it. Now there's some demented, evil, wicked people who do hate their own flesh and cut and do so, but that's completely unnatural. It's demented. Doesn't work, right? We are to care for the orphan and widow in their distress as pure and undefiled religion. This is what James says in James 1. But this is not a replacement, again, for natural affection. It's not this either or. I think a lot of people think, especially on the left and, really soft, if you will, conservatives, that's what they think. That's what they want. But that's not true. I love my own children more than other children. And this ought not to be remotely controversial. It's only controversial because people have been allergic to these things, have had an allergic reaction because they've been fed lies for years. But remember, the same people who are feeding the lies are the same people who say there's no personhood of the unborn, that borders don't matter, and that boys can become girls and girls can become boys, etc. Marriage is whatever you want, whatever. Why should we listen to these people? We shouldn't. Christians, the time for silent shrugging is over. It's over. It's gone. We must again stand firmly on God's word. Firmly, all the way, not sometimes when it's convenient, but all the time. Stand firmly on his revealed word. Not only because it's what he calls us to, but it's because that's what's better. It works. That's the thing. Ordo Amoris works. Again, it's not pragmatic or whatever. It is a Christian concept. We see this all the time. God made distinctions. God gave us family. He gave us husband and wife. The two shall become one flesh, children, etc. God didn't just do this just because. So that's it, right? That's the summation of it. Go back and listen to the video, the interview if you want to. You can read my article as well. It's on truthscript.com. And until next time, take care. We'll see you. God bless. And that's it.